I've got to tell you that the news of this conference is out. I was campaigning yesterday on 96th Street, and 2 people came up to me and said they were coming to the conference, that they had heard about it. So I was amazed. You have a real outreach to people to tell them where they should be to support women nationally and internationally. And I am delighted to be here today. UNIFEM is an extraordinary organization that brings hope and help to millions of women across the globe. And your support for UNIFEM helps make its work possible. So I want to thank all of you. And I particularly want to recognize Carolyn Maloney1, who heads the National Committee for UNIFEM United States, which provides crucial support for the remarkable work that UNIFEM does, and Linda Bash, the president of the National Council of Research on Women, NCRW. It is crucial, the work that you do is crucial to policy makers such as myself. And they provide us with data that helps bolster the arguments for funding and for important policy changes. We also celebrate the 35th anniversary of the UN World Conference on Women in Mexico City. That was really a terrific time. And I remember that I see some of my friends from the UN conference in Beijing, China. That was also a very exciting time. And over during the Bush administration, we found that offices that keep data on women were having their funding cut. Because if you don't have statistics, information, and documentation of the problems of discrimination, it's harder for women and our allies to argue that we need funding or new programs. NCRW helps ensure that we have the tools we need to make the arguments. So I also join in thanking Hunter College and the Women and Gender Studies program and the Roosevelt House for hosting this event for us today. And I also want to recognize Leslie Wright, who is a moving force behind this conference, and outgoing chair for the National Council for UNIFEM US. Thank you also, Leslie. She and her colleagues have done an extraordinary job of bringing so many people together for this important conference. Whenever I'm at a conference dedicated to women's rights, particularly international women's rights, I miss my good friend Bella Abzug, an extraordinary member of Congress from New York. Who's here and she was a trailblazer, a visionary, a leader of the women's movement, and founder of WIDO, and I understand you honored WIDO last night. Bella knew how to shake things up. She knew how to get results. And one of her greatest contributions and legacies is WIDO and the role of NGOs at the United Nations. We all owe a debt to Bella. And I tell you, I remember when we were in Beijing, we were working very hard not only on women's rights, but we came out with that important platform for action that we then took back to our countries and worked to move forward with human rights. And I remember the day that it was raining. Remember the rainy storm? And we all went to the Great Wall of China, and we were in buses, and the rain was pouring down, and we went and looked at that Great Wall. And as we approach this great millennium, there is still a great wall that we have to pull down, and that is discrimination against women, equality for women, and the passage of CEDAW by all countries, including the United States. I just know that Bella, and I know all of us, would be pleased that achieving gender equality and women's empowerment is one of 8 Millennium Development Goals, and another is, of course, improving maternal health. The world is slowly starting to recognize the link between women's status in society and economic development. If women are doing well, then the economy of the whole nation does well. There was a time when the men who ran the world thought that they could solve the problems in developing countries by giving aid basically to organizations run by men. While I have been in Congress, I certainly support like-minded men that have always worked hard to get NGOs run by women funded. I believe they can do a better job on women's issues because they feel it in their heart. And I am pleased to have worked with the Ms. Foundation and Ellie Smeal to not only create the Human Rights Commission in Afghanistan, but secure hundreds of millions of dollars that are directed towards women-run NGOs in Afghanistan. And I believe that has made a tremendous difference. Well, it turns out that economic strength requires the participation of both women and men. Women need to be educated, they need to participate actively in political life, they need to have access to capital, and they need to be safe from violence, the theme of your conference. When these elements are present, countries tend to be more prosperous. Women who are educated are less likely to die in childbirth, have fewer children, marry later, and have more prosperous households and communities. When women are educated, children are less likely to die before the age of 5 and are more likely to grow up healthier. Educated women make better decisions for their families, but today 23% of women around the world cannot read, compared to only 13% of men. Societal prohibitions against educating women is one explanation for low education rates, but others are practical. Expensive schools fees force families to choose which child to educate. Even in our own country, I know families in America who choose between male children and female children as to which should be educated. Both should be educated. Women and girls in many parts of the world spend large parts of their day fetching water and doing other time-consuming tasks that could be eliminated with better plumbing and access to fuel. Children, especially girls, often do not attend school because their schools lack private and decent sanitary facilities. And girls in unsafe parts of the world are kept home from school when it's absolutely too dangerous to leave the house. In some countries, they are even harassed, and in some countries, even murdered for going to school. The UN's goal was to reach parity in education by 2005 and in all areas by 2015. We may have missed the first goal, and there's no sign that we will hit the second, but you've got to set the goalpost high if you want to get anywhere. Worldwide, women hold only 18% of the world's national legislators, and there are only 24 countries in which women hold 30% of the legislative seats. And most economists believe that you've got to have 30% of the seats in order to have a critical mass to influence change. That is considered the threshold. In the United States, we're down there with the world's average. Women are 17% of the House, 74 members, and 17% of the Senate, 17 members. We are making progress, but it's slow. I remember I was elected in the Year of the Women, and one of my thrilling times in my life was seeing 48 women walk down the aisle, not to get married, but to be sworn into the United States Congress. And women are really there making a difference, and we must always have a sharp pencil in working to make sure more women are elected. The United States